Hello. Welcome to the Friend of Zeus podcast. My name is Zeus. We got Tom. He hates it when I do this, but he's on my bottom right. MIKE E.P.
I'm not on your bottom anything. Stop saying that.
He's on my power bottom right. MIKE E.P. is on the bottom left. And we got our guest this week, the Dusty Stars.
My mic is off.
We got Nick, Beth, not Kim. We got Tom, number 2. And we got a very old friend of mine over here, John, with the glasses. Some might remember him as Skippy from Family Ties. But I've known him for probably, how long now, John?
It would have been 1992, March 13th.
Jesus Christ. That's a little, I'm a little.
That's like 30 years, dude.
I'm feeling a little stalked right now. But a very good friend of mine for years and years. We used to live next to each other. I think, well, we met at a party, I want to say, or through John, or through, what was his name?
Jeff's Basement, man.
Jeff's Basement. That would be a great name for a band. Anyway, let me get the business out of the way. You can find us on YouTube at Friends of Zeus Podcast. It's Friends of Zeus Podcast for all of them. We're also now on Apple Podcast. I just put us up there. We're on Spotify. I just put us on Stitcher as well. And there's rumblings on Rumble. So we're getting all over the place. It's taken some time. We're starting to get some views, but then they're getting yanked away. I won't say by who, but it is a little upsetting. So anyway, I guess the first thing I'd like to ask you guys is, I mean, I know John, and like I said, we have large gaps when we see each other, but I just knew that he was in a band. I really don't know how you guys met. Can you give us a little bit of your background?
Have them introduce themselves. I don't know which one is John, but maybe they can introduce themselves.
She's the last original member of the original lineup.
Hi, I'm Beth. I'm from the Dusty Stars. I play keyboards, sometimes do some backup vocals once in a while, and yeah, I just love it.
And you're
these guys.
You're the only original member.
Yeah.
Still.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how did the band get formed before we all came on board?
Well, it started with a guy by the name of Mike Rattel.
I think I know him.
I think you know him too.
Mike Rattel, yeah, and he just I'm a hairstylist, and he came in. My husband and I threw a party, and I had just bought a piano, and I was playing some old music that my mom sent me, and Mike was there at the party, and so he came in and got his hair cut and said, "Oh, hey, I hear you heard you playing guitar or piano at your party. I'm starting a band. I'd like you to play the keyboards." So I told him, no. I denied it. He's like, no. I said, really, I was just reading music. I can't sit down and just start playing stuff. I have to have music in front of me. You have to tell me what notes to play. I don't know if someone starts playing, never been able to oh, that's a C or that's a D. So I just basically took lessons when I was a kid. So I can read music, but that's about it. And so he persisted, and I said, okay, I'll give it a shot. And that's how it started. And then we had another guy that bowed out, and then we got John. We got John as the bass player.
Yeah, Mike gave me a call. I just stuck a saw through his hand here, and I didn't even know if I was going to be able to play. And he's
Excuse
like,
me, what did you stick through there? What did you stick through your hands?
A saw. I was cutting pipe.
Oh dear
I was
God!
replacing a sink and just went right through my 2 fingers here.
Wow.
I didn't even know if I'd be able to. On the way to the hospital, I wasn't quite sure I was going to be keeping them, but yeah, can't feel them, but they work. They hold a pick, and then I came on, and it was Mike and Beth and Karen, who I actually went to high school, but I didn't know in high school. We went to high school together. I think she was a year behind me, and Karen decided to move on to bigger and better things, and somebody put an ad on Craigslist, and we got Nick.
Yeah, I just auditioned for the band, and the moment I joined, everything really took off. Really, I was the launching point. At that point, you know, there were embers, but this brought the inferno. You know what I'm saying?
It was your humility. It was your humility that really brought it out of everybody, right?
I have a tsunami of humility. It's a tidal wave
Humility coming out of my ass.
No, it was great. They were a really receptive band, and I'll tell you the thing that really made me want to join the group was that I came and I auditioned, and I played guitar and sung, and then afterwards I was hanging out with Mike here, and I was also Mike Rattel and John here, and we were kind of hanging out in front of Beth's house where we met and where I auditioned, and we were chatting kind of about the band and what they wanted to do, and Mike said, we want this band to be of sort of a fusion of punk music and folk music. And John then said, people's music. And as soon as he said that, it really landed in me. I thought, yeah, those are very egalitarian music forms. They can be as complicated and sophisticated as you want to make them, but the price of admission to play rock and roll or to play folk is actually very low. Anybody can kind of get with it. And yet there's no ceiling to either of those forms either. So I thought, oh, this is great. I love the idea that we can kind of do anything with these things. And I'm a songwriter. So once I joined, we started writing a little more original music, and that happened that way. And then after a while, we went through like a Spinal Tap rotation of drummers. And our current drummer
is always the case.
Yeah, it is. And we currently, our current drummer is still with the band. He's great, but he's not with us right now for the interview. And we also,
He's in jail, right?
What's that? He's in jail,
yeah. Right? Yeah.
Well, he got out on bail, which means he's probably in Canada right now. No, but we, along the way, looking for a drummer at one point, one of the people that answered an ad that I put out saying, hey, I could maybe play drums for you, was Tom back here. And so I came over and jammed with Tom. And in the process of jamming with him, I found out he played guitar. He played guitar. We played guitar together. And I thought, man, he's a real strong guitar player. And I really like what he does. I like the way he complements the things that I'm playing. So I sort of basically pulled a bait and switch on the poor guy and said, hey, instead of you playing drums in the band, how about if you play guitar in the band and we find somebody else to play drums? And he said, oh, okay. And so that's what we did. That's how we roped this poor guy into the band.
Nice, nice. So, so you guys meet, you start forming this. What would you say was like your moment of epiphany where you're like, yeah, we got something going on here, something real? Because you guys been around together for a while now.
Yeah. John and Beth and myself have been together since 2018. 2008. So yeah, we've been together for quite a while. And I want to say that early on, we had a practice, I think it was like my second band practice, where for some reason we couldn't meet at Beth's. And so we met at John's. And basically John and Mike and I sort of got together, and I said, hey, how about if we write some of our own songs instead of playing cover material? And they were amenable to it. And so we started jamming on some ideas. We came up with a song called Europa that is actually on our first album. It's on the SoundCloud link for our first album, The Burn. And Europa was the first song we all wrote together. And there was something to it. Like you could feel it. It had energy, it had bounce, it had verve. There was some poetry to it. It took you someplace. It was interesting. And so I thought, okay, let's see if we can keep doing this. And so we did for a while. And there's been some lineup changes, but by and large, Beth and John and myself have endeavored to kind of keep the core concepts of this thing going, that it's part punk and part folk, that it has a bit of a bounce, a bit of a swing, and that we will unapologetically do whatever we want to do, basically. So that's what the Dusty Stars are more or less about.
Nice.
Hey, I'm gonna real quick, John, can you move like 6 inches to your right? Because we're getting like a two-face thing off of you.
He doesn't know what 6 inches is. Don't talk to him about that.
I've scooched over 6 inches 3 times.
I'm getting a lot of like, I don't know. I'm hearing, when I listen to your album, I'm hearing that folky punk that you guys are talking about. Sometimes, I don't know, it reminds me a little bit of like Against Me in the early days, or even Violent Femmes. Are either of those bands maybe influenced on you guys?
What's the first band again?
Against Me. They're like, And then or the Violent Femmes. I mean, either one. I'm getting those kind of vibes. I don't know if either one of those bands would have influenced you, but I that's what I'm hearing.
Well, I'll say that. Well, I would say that neither one of those particular artists influence us or influence me too directly. Only saying me because I'm the songwriter guy in the band. However, one of the things that I know about the Femmes, I don't know if this is true about Against Me. I don't think it is, but it might be. One of the things that's true about the Femmes is they used to be a busking band. They used to play on the street, and so did I. I work as a professional actor and I've toured the Midwest 6 times. And when I would go, I'd take a guitar and I'd busk and I'd supplement my income sort of busking. And there's a sort of, basic strumming, right hand rhythm guitar and yowling quality that you manifest as an acoustic busker with no electronic support, fighting for a voice on the sidewalk that becomes part of your aesthetic. And I hear that in the Violent Femmes, and I also hear it in our early stuff as well. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that. One of my, this is weird, but I happen to kind of like musicals. Like a good musical is a great movie. And I don't know if you've ever seen a movie called Once, but it's this guy, Glenn Hansard. And there's a scene at the beginning where he does his song, Say It To Me Now. And when you were saying that, I'm like totally envisioning it because he just it's like he hates his guitar. He's just crushing it. It's such
He's awesome.
Just it evokes emotion when you hear that guy sing.
I love Hanson. He's a big Van Morrison fan.
I could see that. I could totally see that.
He plays a lot of his covers.
Yeah, but that's such a powerful scene. It's like that's the scene that brings you into the movie and locks you in right from go. But yeah, just sorry, I didn't mean to. This is tangent alert. That just when you said that, that's all I could envision was that first scene in the movie where he's chasing the guy to get his money back. Such a powerful scene. But I'm even more intrigued to hear some more of your stuff because I didn't get to listen to a lot, but I like what I did hear. But I want to hear some of that rage against your guitar kind of stuff. I love that stuff. And yeah, that does have a very Violent Femmes kind of.
Well, if that's your taste, if that's your jam, I'm going to recommend a track for you. On our first album, there's a song called Boyfriend in Flames. Boyfriend in Flames is a good sort of folk punk. It's very punk in its approach, sort of song, but it was a song that is a protest song. And most of us, if you say the words protest song to somebody, we all get, I think, a universal sort of kumbaya-ish, mid-tempo, we will overcome someday sort of vibe out of the song.
This is a song about great social import. Mercedes
about great social import, but usually it's designed to be something everyone can sing along with, and it's usually not too aggressive. However, Boyfriend in Flames was about same-sex marriage, and we wrote it before the Supreme Court had the Obergefell decision. So we wrote it in, I don't know, 2010 or something like that. I don't know when we did it, maybe 2009. We wrote it well. Yeah.
2008 or 9.
It was early on, and it occurred to me that I felt that it was just kind of, there's some sort of civil rights that to me it seems stupid that they get obscured or that we don't have them. And so to me, same-sex marriage was a no-brainer. I thought I personally felt that we should have it, and it was dumb to pretend that it was a bad idea. So we put together this song that basically unapologetically said, "Fuck you if you don't get this." And it's a protest song, but it's a punk rock protest song. And punk rock has a great history of that sort of thing. But so we did this Powerfolk protest song. And I'll tell you a fun anecdote about this. So Boyfriend in Flames, the very first line of the song is, "The only man I kiss is my boyfriend." That's the first line of the song. And from there, it just gets more and more and more, right? We were playing a benefit for a man who had been in a motorcycle accident, and he and his motorcycle riding group and some of his community gathered together, and they were at a marina in Virginia, and they organized a motorcycle benefit for this
Woodbridge.
guy in Woodbridge. And so we go down there, and we were one of something like 20 bands that they booked to play, so that people would come and raise all this money for this man's medical bills. And we showed up, and every other band there was a cover band, and they were all playing like grindcore heavy metal. So we come in, and I've got an acoustic guitar, and I'm about to play power folk, and And not only that, but we weren't in the big old city anymore, full of liberals rolling around or whatever, what have you. So we were actually really curious about how a song that started with the words, "The only man I kiss is my boyfriend," sung by an Italian-looking twink, might go over with the motorcycle riding crowd out in the sticks. So we basically quickly thought, maybe we shouldn't play this song. And we just stage, and we get to that part of our sets where we were about to play that song. And I turned around to the band and I said, okay, we're skipping this song. And our drummer at the time just said, just play it. Let's just play it.
Dude, you never listen to the drummer. They're fucking crazy.
I know, they hit things, right? They're all about conflict.
No, drummers never last. Never last.
You're right. He's not here now to deal with the repercussions. But he said, let's play it. John said, let's play it. Beth said, let's play it. So I felt like the whole band really had my back. So I turned to this audience of, I won't say grizzly, but, maybe they've seen better days motorcycle enthusiasts. And I said, the next song we're going to play, we play in the city a lot. The city's filled with lots of people who were cool with the subject matter that this song is about. Now, we're going to play
it's
this
like
song.
if Duck Dynasty was a city, it would be Woodbridge.
Yes.
But I said to him, we're going to play this song, and people in the city like it. You might not like it. It might offend you. If it does, just shut the hell up. It'll be over in 4 minutes. And then
Wow,
we played
it's a
the song.
4 minute.
And they loved it. They were cool with it. I think they liked us sort of, sticking up for ourselves. And then the song has got a good beat. It really moves. So it was a good experience, and they were totally cool with it. Not a problem in the world. So the next time you have a gay protest song, you go to Woodbridge and you sing because they love it there. They love it.
Woodbridge is our jam. Well, that's the kind of cool thing about like folk and punk. Actually, it's not a direct connection, but there is kind of a. We're not cool. Obviously, with punk, there's a we're not cool with the establishment thing. And then you got more of a peaceful end to that with your folk. I guess we wouldn't call Janis Joplin folk, would we? I'd say she's folksy.
She's rock and roll, but she was
Mercedes-Benz is about the most that Mercedes-Benz.
Country too.
But I can see how punk is what it's like 3 chords for everything, right?
Yeah.
So
If
you can kind of
That's the bridge.
I'm not knocking it, but I'm saying what is it? Green Day always does this thing where they bring somebody up from the audience and they're like, do you know how to play the guitar? Can you play this chord, this chord, this chord? And by the end of this little interaction, they're doing I was all by myself, it's a very adaptive type of music. Folk, I think, a little more complicated, but they combine. I could see them combining very, very well. It makes a lot of sense, actually. That's all I got to say about that.
Well,
but how did you guys come up with the whole folk meets punk kind of? It sort of sounds like rockabilly a little.
Maybe a little bit in the beginning. It's evolved over the past amount of time, and Tom brings a lot to it, and our drummer brings a lot to it. I would say that originally, when I first joined the band, one of the things the band was doing before I showed up was taking, I think the inspiration for the band sonically was the old MTV Unplugged show that featured 10,000 Maniacs.
Oh, that's great.
It is great, and the lush sort of sonic palette that they displayed on that performance. And so basically Mike, the founder of the band, he thought, wouldn't it be cool if we took the Replacements and the Ramones and the Sex Pistols? We took this sort of punk music and we slowed it down maybe a little bit, and we played it in a more lush acoustic setup with ukuleles and acoustic guitars and pianos, and we did an arrangement of it like that, and we let the melodic elements of this stuff come out, which in the Ramones really sings, because the Ramones are very melodic. And that was the matrix of the band when I first joined. We weren't writing original material yet. It was mostly a punk and new wave sort of cover band, but with a very specific sonic approach. And from that, you can easily see how once we started writing our own material, that same approach was what sort of informed the new stuff.
cool. Do you guys do any like festivals or anything like that? Our guy over here, MIKE E.P, he does a lot of, you tour a lot and do a lot of festivals, right?
Yeah, but mine are mostly like reggae festivals. It's out west.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, how do you guys tour, or have you guys toured in the past?
We did one tour a few years ago, before pandemic. We did a tour, and what it was a friend of mine who had a band in DC was going to go on a tour, and he basically came to one of our shows and checked us out and checked out the crowd, and basically said, I think people that like my band would like your band. And yet we're not so similar that we would be in sort of direct artistic competition. We'd be a complementary bill. So basically he said, I want to see if you guys want to go out on tour. So we did a very short tour. It was like a week. It was like a real small thing. It was like here and down to Virginia and up to Ohio and back. It was a pretty short little thing. And it was a good experience for us, but it wasn't really well organized. And I know that I harbor ambitions to try and do something else that will be a little better, because so maybe we should hook up with you, Mikey, and
Yes,
but we'll do a reggae album, man. And
yeah, let's go. Let's go. Beth, how was like traveling with the dudes? Like, cause I know like I've traveled with ladies in the past, and I know just from personal experience, like the tour van is like the most like the things that are said between guys in the tour van are just the most heinous and terrible things. I'm just wondering if that was your experience, or are you someone that can sort of acclimate to that situation? I mean, you're the only lady in a room full of dudes here, so I'm just curious from a woman's perspective how that is. I mean, not even just on the tour, but like how that is as as a band.
Yeah, I mean, I'm used to it. I played hockey on and I was the only girl on a hockey team and had to share a locker room with a bunch of hockey dudes. So doesn't get much worse than that.
Yeah, I feel
that
you.
wasn't even that bad. They were all
Prepared you.
and everything. But no, these guys are great. We actually drove separately on the tour.
Yeah,
So and
Oh,
yeah,
you
at Nick's mom's house, which was great. And I had my own bedroom, and Nick had his bedroom, and John and our old drummer were on a mattress on the floor. And I'm an early riser, so I was up really early and showered and everything before anyone woke up. So I didn't really have to worry about any of that. Yeah, I mean, it was perfectly mature setting.
Yeah, well, just from it seems like you guys been a band for a long time and you've gone through a lot of changes. I mean, has there ever been moments where you felt like, and I'm not trying to turn this into sort of like women's rights and stuff like that, which that sounded weird. But I'm saying, like, have you ever had moments in the band where you felt like, I don't know, where you your voice wasn't heard or not? I'm just going off of experience that I've had, because I've been in situations where a lot of times when there's a lady in the room and there's a bunch of guys, that they tend to get pushed to the side, and if they don't sort of stand up for themselves and sort of I don't know, even almost adopt male tendencies, they sort of get, either laughed off or pushed off to the side. And so I'm just curious if you've ever experienced that, being the only lady in the band.
Well, I'll answer that for her.
Yeah. He shuts the all the time. He tells me he wants me to sing, but tells the sound people to turn me down.
Turn her down.
All the time.
It's all sabotage.
No, Nick's very welcoming. He wants me to sing more. He wants me to play more. He wants me to. I think he wishes. I don't know, that I was a little more. I don't know. I wouldn't say up front and center, but I think
Yeah.
more assertive or whatever. But I'm just shy, so I'm okay with being behind the scenes.
Well, I love those pants, by the way. Those pants are awesome.
I'm also there's only so much of that I can take. I would
She's tough.
I would I'd say something. So
Yeah.
I was expecting to hear a lot more about beer drinking and farts in a van, honestly.
Yeah.
So,
Where's the farts?
You're actually far too
boring.
organized to be a band because I've never seen a rock and roll road movie where they all drove their own cars and slept in their own rooms. Usually somebody was getting bathed in a cold shower, coffee poured down their throat, and they were going to get them some methadone so they could get through the show that night.
Right.
You guys have no pain. Where's your pain?
Usually you can't afford
Fun
like
if you're
4
entrepreneur.
cars, for a band.
We
Yeah,
didn't have a vehicle
exactly.
big enough.
One of you isn't doing their heroin.
Step it up, guys. Step it up.
I think I'm seeing the disconnect.
So I wanted to ask Nick, maybe I guess, I don't know if the other guys, if you guys write as well, but what is your process? I used to try to write music, and I think Zeus did too, probably 20, 30 years ago for us.
Yeah, with Jack, I
But
used to.
How do you write a song? What do you do? I used to like just go by myself off somewhere, like out in the yard, the backyard under a tree or something, and try to sit down with my pen and pad and try to write something. But what is your process? How do you come up with ideas or write it, flesh it out?
I was born under a vomitorium star. It is very difficult for me to not create. I'm a perpetual
It just
creator.
pours right out of you. Okay.
Kinda. Like I don't know.
Vomit some music out.
But I do a lot of that stuff. So specifically with this band, I guess I look at it this way. When I think about art, I think there are no rules with art. There are rules of thumb, and there are
Right.
agreements, and there are covenants that we abide by. There's musical covenants that we abide by, musical theories, musical approaches. But by and large, I always start from a place of anything is possible. And then I usually think to myself, what do I either want to say and or what would be cool for me as an audience member to experience? What would I want to hear somebody say to me? And I sort of explore things from that perspective. As far as the actual nuts and bolts of the writing, I kind of try and play something I've never played before on my instrument, which I fail at often. I'm a rhythm guitar player, which means my right hand is really doing more of the work than my chord changing hand. So the chord structure is usually pretty simple, and my right hand needs to be pretty simple because I'm usually singing over it. So I think sometimes it's a little bit redundant. But overall, I have one neat trick I can share with you, which is that I have a bigotry. My bigotry is, I think playing cover songs sucks.
Bigotry.
My bigotry is that I always feel like I kind of agree with Henry Rollins about the idea of the way to advertise to the world that you have no ambition or self-respect is to be in a cover band. And if you really want to say you have no self-respect, you be in a tribute band. And I kind of agree with that. Now, not hardcore, because music is there for everybody to enjoy, and I really believe and stand by that. But for me personally, I have no interest in playing anybody else's song. So when I'm in a band, and if I'm the songwriter kind of guy, and somebody suggests, hey, I want to cover this song, what I do is I listen to that song, and I pay attention to my friend who suggested that they wanted to do that song. And I think, what is it about that song that appeals to them? What is the need that's being met? What is it that they want out of that experience? And then I write a song that does that. And then I bring that in next band practice and I say, hey, would you guys like to try this song? And it almost always works. And basically almost every time I've been in a band and somebody has said, I want to cover this song, I basically write our version of it.
Right. Oh, that's a cool idea. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we stopped that doing a cover song, which I personally prefer. But even maybe more importantly, is that I have to pay attention to my fellow band member and try and understand what they like and what they want. So I have to invest in my partners here in order to generate this material, or else it's not going to work. It's a magic trick, but it's a magic trick that requires a bit of subconscious.
Cool. So you're kind of taking something and you build on it, and then you like tailor it to your specific, what you guys want to hear yourselves.
When I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think that's an eloquent explanation of it. And the way you just explained it, taking something and then building on it and tailoring it to your needs for expression, is a really great example of, I think, songwriting in general. I didn't invent the guitar. I didn't invent chords. I didn't invent music theory. I didn't invent the 1-4-5 progression or jazz progressions or folk patterns or anything. So I can take any of that stuff, and as you just articulated, I build on it and I shape it for something we want to do. And I write
puzzle
some
pieces.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. You're just forming a different picture with different pieces. Yeah. You know, I happen to be a fan of like a good cover, or even better, like a good cover album. Probably one of the coolest ones I've heard in a while was, I bet you guys are familiar with it, but it was, I want to say they were Luther Right the Wrongs. They did this bluegrass kind of rockabilly cover of The Wall by Pink Floyd.
Okay.
If you haven't heard it, it's spectacular. It's like, welcome to the machine. And like, it's just like, it's crazy cool. And, you know, every once in a while you'll get like Boys in the Hood. I forget who did that modern white boys version of it.
Oh,
but
was
it,
that
but it,
ant something ant?
yeah, Alien Ant Farm doing
Farm.
the Michael Jackson cover. Every once in a while when they take it and they say, all right, we're going to use those words, but everything else is me. You know,
Right.
that's
Yeah.
a good cover. It is almost
That's what I like.
honors.
Kind of like Manfred Mann, Blinded by the Light, when they did the Bruce Springsteen cover. But don't do a cover and then try to imitate the original artist. That's pointless. Why are you doing that? I could just play the original one.
And
If you're going to do
sometimes
a
you can-
cover, take it, adapt it, make it your own sound. That's what I want to hear.
Sometimes you'll hear someone that they clearly love the song. Like, you guys will probably shoot me down for this, but Pink does a cover of Me and Bobby McGee that is ridiculous. It's like, whether you like her or not, you know she loves that song and she can wail, and it moves me every time I hear it. But
Well,
yeah, so I mean,
that's what karaoke bars are for. That's what.
yeah, but she's making millions off of her karaoke, so
Yeah,
but
which means we need her publicist, basically.
exactly. No, and I get that. I can definitely get the disdain, because it's like, you know, come up with something of your own, you know. But there is also that theory of Shakespeare did it all already. You know, we're all just, and obviously that doesn't apply to music, but the concept does, is that eventually we're going to get to a point where we're just kind of regurgitating a lot of stuff, and you do see it every once in a while.
Zeus, there's like a bunch of songs where you didn't know that they were covers. There's a lot of forgotten music out there, and if you can find like a forgotten gem and rediscover it and bring it back to people so they can hear it for the first time as your cover, you know, that's good too.
There's something to be said for that, yeah.
I'm wondering.
And,
Go ahead.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I was just curious, and like, so when you bring a song to the band, how do you guys disseminate it? Do you have sort of a fully formed idea, or do you assign parts? Like, how do you guys do it? Do you guys write your own parts when it comes to it? Like, how do you guys sort of flesh out a song when someone brings a new song into the band?
I'll tell you what, when Nick brings an idea, it always gets changed. I mean, and he's open to that, which is kind of cool working with him, because he'll be like, well, you know, play the bass line like this. And it's like, no, I don't like that. I'm going to do it this way. John, you know, you should really play the bass line like this. And I play it again the way I want to. And by the third time, he's like, no, that actually works.
Yeah.
And, you know, Beth puts her piano on it. And when Jordan puts the drums, you know, it's all one big thing. And yeah, and it changes. I mean, like, we were recording a song 2 weeks ago, and John had to redo the bridge because it needed to be a little bit different. The Emerald Owl.
Yeah.
I really don't even remember how I played it that night, but it got a little bit funkier. And I had Tom to poke me and Nick to poke me and say, hey, you know, do this. So fortunately, with the magic of Tom's studio editing,
the word we like is prod, because it avoids any accidental sexual innuendo. We don't poke John much in the studio, but we prod him.
Encourage.
But you know, basically we'll work out all the rhythm and the vocals, and Tom put the leads on it, and it sounds pretty good.
And what kind of like recording setup do you guys use? Like a tracks or like a just very basic, or do you get like really crazy with multi tracks and everything?
We've done a variety of things over the years. Right now, we're doing a lot of stuff with Tom actually recording us here at with his equipment.
Yeah, I got a home studio in my basement where basically it's a very basic interface computer with a bunch of microphones on the drum kit and amplifiers, and I just kind of do my best to try to get a kind of a lo-fi sound because of my limitations equipment wise,
Right.
and try to get a good sound that I guess it sounds more of an indie kind of setup. And then I mix several tracks. They usually do 30 to 60 tracks depending on how many overdubs and
Oh wow. Okay.
What's the most I just did behind vocals?
mostly, yeah, except for the Halloween song was like just a bunch of effects and stuff.
That's true.
Yeah, it's usually just me kind of mixing everything together and getting kind of a song out for the, I guess, holidays or stuff like that.
Yeah. Do you guys do you mix and master all in house, or do you send it off for mastering?
For this particular process, we haven't done any mastering yet. So in the past, the albums that we've done, the stuff that's on Bandcamp and SoundCloud, that stuff has been mastered, and it's been mastered by, we send it off to somebody to get mastered. I think one of them was mastered. They get mastered different ways.
First one was sent to England.
And then but the recent project we've been doing, kind of because of pandemic, but also just because it's been kind of fun for us, is we've been, with Tom, we've been recording more or less a song every month or so, and we're kind of making them holiday songs. So if you go to our Bandcamp, you're going to find a Halloween song and a Thanksgiving song and a Christmas song, and you're going to find our Valentine's Day song, and just
There you
recently we released our St. Patrick's Day song.
We need more of those. Too many
Do you have
Christmas
any
songs. We need
Yom
more like.
Kippur songs?
There you go.
What's that?
Columbus Day?
We actually, I was in a project, I'm a compulsive songwriter, and I was in another project where we did a Krampus song. So
Nice.
we haven't done a Columbus Day song, but we did a Krampus Day song. But with Tom in the band, we sort of do a lot of recording with him. And so for that, to answer your specific technical question, we haven't mastered any of the holiday songs yet. They're just mixed as well as we can, but they're not mastered yet at all. Probably in the future, we'll put a bunch of these singles together and make a little album, playlist, what have you. And at that point, we'll probably master them so that they work together as a collection.
So I'm a huge acoustic fan. Like, have you guys ever considered doing like a live acoustic kind of just try and kick it out and hope it goes well kind of deal?
Well, kind of. So a lot of our first album, there were 2 songs on the album that are rough playing. We all played together at the same time. A lot of times when in the studio, the drummer lays down the drums, the bass player then plays the bass afterwards, and then bit by bit you build these songs. When we did our first album, we basically all played together in separate rooms of a house. And the idea was that we would record as best we could. We'd do any overdubs we needed to do. And then later on, I would come back and sing it better, basically, and maybe do any guitars that were needed to be cleaned up, since I was playing guitar and singing, it was probably going to be sloppy. But there were 2 tracks that when we listened back to the take were great. They felt real. They felt organic. As you kind of put it, we rolled the dice and we got what we got. And we really were impressed by that. And one of those songs is basically as is on the album. There's a song called Tonight and Every Night that Beth did. Beth was one of the songwriters on that. She was the primary songwriter on that. And when we listened to it, it was great. I came in later and I added some backing vocals and I think a little percussion or something and a little lead guitar thing. But basically everything on it was unchanged. It was a document of the band at that moment in time.
That's
and there was
cool.
one other song that was like that, but the guy who was recording us didn't want that song to be as rough as it was, as raw as it was. And so he wanted me to come in and re-record stuff. And I felt like I had to pick. I could probably get one song on the album raw, but probably couldn't get both. I felt like he wasn't going to go for that. So I said, okay, I'll do this one, but I really wanted Beth's song to be the document because I thought it was really perfect. So if you listen to Tonight and Every Night on our SoundCloud, that's us live. And that's what the band sounded like at that time, live. There's one other interesting thing we did was last year for the National Public Radio Tiny Desk Contest, we submitted a song and we got scouted by some small indie label in Brooklyn that has a shtick that they do. And their shtick is that they record a band live in their studio, and that live recording, unedited, gets immediately pressed into a vinyl single.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Not just one single. So we come in and we play Tonight and Every Night, and it gets pressed into a vinyl single. And then a few minutes later, we play Boyfriend in Flames, and it gets pressed to a vinyl single. And the idea was that we would pre-sell this. We'd sell it to you three, and each one of you would pay X amount of money and tell us which song in our catalog you want to hear. And then we go into the studio and we record that live, and whatever happens, happens. They tell you ahead of time, this is about the band being real. So if the band screws up in the middle of the track, then that's your single.
But that's kind of cool. Organic is so much better, man. Like,
yeah.
I mean, yes, we've all been raised on like this process, and and it's not that it's bad necessarily. It's processed to kind of hit those little nodes in our brain that want to hear that. But man, that some of that acoustic, like you were mentioning 10,000 Maniacs, when she, and I know we already talked about covers, but when she does Because the Night, it's fucking, that's epic. It's like the song was written for her. And I'll give you another one. This is a deep dive, but man, you listen to Wilson Pickett do Hey Joe, or he also does Hey Jude. He likes the Hey songs, but Wilson Pickett does covers of those two songs, and it's like they were written for him. Like, I mean, every once in a while, there's going to be a good one. And well, just, I love when something just feels like it was meant to be. So that's a little bit away from the acoustic, but still, I love the organic quality that you get from some of these songs where they clearly loved it so much that it became part of their DNA, or they mix their DNA with it. Now it's sounding a little perverse, so I'm going to move away from this. But no, I'd really love to see what you guys do.
Hey Jude,
What's that?
with the Wilson Pickett.
Yeah,
That was Dwayne Allman on the guitars from the Allman Brothers.
Oh, wow.
that doesn't surprise me. And
I
a
mean,
little
that's part of the reason why the song is so good, is just the way he played on especially on the outro.
Well, also Wilson Pickett was amazing. The Commitments was all about, the movie The Commitments was all about Wilson Pickett. And there's our little Glenn Hansard wraparound, because Glenn Hansard was the scary looking redheaded guitar player in that. So there we go. That's my music knowledge.
The Commitment is one of the best movies about being in a band, because there's a lot of Hollywoodization that happens when Hollywood tries to show you what it is to be in a band. It's usually misses the mark of a real band. What's neat about The Commitment is, a guy said this to me about The Commitments, and he was 100% right. He said, it's a movie about how great bands happen all the time, and they break up because people are stupid.
Yeah.
And that's true. I've got a CD collection of bands from all over the US that never got famous, that some of which are great. They're desert island albums, but they never got famous, and they broke up before they got a publicist, and before they got a manager, and before they got representation, and before they could get, their music out there anywhere. And Clear Channel wasn't going to play anything, and they never had a push. So they never had a shot, but they made really great stuff.
Yeah.
But they broke up because they were stupid. So
there's a band, I think I might have even taken John to see these guys, just for the sake of the show. People are hopping in the middle. I was mentioning earlier, I've known John for like 30 years, but there was this band called Avogadro's Number, like back 92, like right when grunge was really kicking in. And they did this song called From the Womb to the Stone that, I swear to God, I wish I could find a copy of this. I look for it all the time, just hoping that somebody in the band gets reminiscent. And this girl could wail. She
Yeah.
could. It was like she was angry at your ears, and she just wanted to penetrate them with her voice. It was fucking amazing. And I saw them like 3 times, and every time she just crushed it.
Yeah, it's beautiful and kind of heartbreaking when you experience something that really seems to be a powerful, especially with music, but a powerful sort of artistic presence, and they make something great, but then it never is afforded a platform or an opportunity to be distributed so for other people to encounter it. Every once in a while, a talent like that really gets through. There's a country band that was kind of big in the early aughts called Sugarland. And the singer for Sugarland was a woman named Jennifer Nettles. And Jennifer Nettles is from down south Louisiana, I think, but she used to be in a band called Soul Miner's Daughter. And then after Soul Miner's Daughter, she was yeah.
I love that.
She had a band called the Jennifer Nettles Band, and then somehow she eventually makes her way into the country universe and ends up in Sugarland. And I was so pleased when I saw that she became this kind of famous sort of, pop country star person for at least, she got her 20 minutes because she was stunningly stupid good. And when I heard her in her younger days, and I thought, God, she's one in a million. And every once in a while, you encounter that. And in my experience, if you look at my CD collection of bands from Minnesota and Lawrence, Kansas, and California, and all over the place, there's some beautiful stuff in there. And it breaks my heart to think that some of these folks, Company is one of the best folk bands I've ever heard. They have a song called The Widow's Man. It sounds like a Civil War lament. And the singer, Stephanie Raven, is just got this amazing alto voice that they never went anywhere. Nobody's ever fucking heard of them. I went to see them when they were on tour. I was the only guy in the place to see them, and I had made my own Company t-shirt because they're that fucking badass, and nobody else had heard of them. When I think about the cover thing, I did have this one thought a while back, which is I was hoping that Washington, D.C. would start to legitimately respect itself musically, because Washington, D.C.'s music scene is nostalgic for the 90s, and that's really about it. It's that, and it's people playing for the staffers on the Hill. The actual indie, vibrant songwriting community of actual artists here doesn't really do much to support each other. And I thought, I know a few great songwriters in the area and some really great bands. And I thought, what we should do a songwriting swap, where you take one of my band's songs, and our band will take one of that band's songs, and that band will take one of that band's songs, and we'll all do a cover of each other. And then when we go out and we play it, we'll say, this is by a great Washington, D.C. band that's playing next month here. Check this song out, and really, really support the community. When you talk about Pickett and you talk about Hey Joe, and you talk about Jimi Hendrix ripping off the Beatles, right? Like pulling these moves where they're contemporaries. They're showing each other out, but they're also supporting each other and really praising each other by emulating each other's work. That to me would be an endeavor worth doing. Playing Metallica because somebody likes Metallica is, to me, very uninteresting. And the one cover that this band ever actually recorded was by Mother May I.
Oh, your Mother May I, yeah.
A DC band called Mother May I.
Wait, was it Dude? Was it guest list?
No, it was Mother May I.
Didn't they do Dude, I'm on a guest list?
Yeah,
What was that?
no, we didn't do guest list. We did do guest list a few times, but we never
And
recorded.
they also did I Hate the Malls, I Hate the Traffic.
Yeah, exactly.
That was
Those guys. Yeah, used
Yeah,
to see them in
yeah.
our road like once a month. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny. I was at a concert and I met Goo Goo Dolls and Three Doors Down. I got to like stand with them, take a picture, all this stupid shit. And I'm like, yeah, I know Dame from Mother May I. Damien, right? Wasn't that his name?
Yeah.
And I was like, do you remember? And Johnny Resnick he's just a bag of dicks. He was just like, yeah, whatever, move along, kid. I was like, fuck you, man.
The dude from the Goo Goo Dolls you want to hang out with is the bass player, Robbie.
Is he the one that
buy your
sings
beers and shit
January
all night.
Girl or whatever?
Huh?
I think he does that song January Girl. He
sings all
one of
the
the
covers.
songs.
Yeah, he used to sing all the songs. The bass player sang all the songs for the Goo Goo Dolls, and then
And
they
the
finally
rest
got
of
Donnie to start singing. But yeah, we were hanging out one night, and he bought us a bunch of beers at the old 930 Club down on F Street. And we're hanging out, and then he bought us some beers. We sat there, and then they released that album that made all the money. And
Dizzy Up the Girl.
maybe I don't know.
Yeah.
The tour I saw him on was Superstar Car Wash.
No, it was definitely Dizzy Up the Girl. That was one with like
That was
all
like the one after it or whatever. Yeah. Well, anyway,
Name
saw
was
him
on
there,
it.
and it
Yeah.
was like they couldn't hang out with us anymore because they're like, dude, I want to sit here and drink beer with John and Mike. And they're like, no, you have to come to the VIP lounge, sir, and hang out up here. You know, in DC 101, and everybody's dragging them up to the VIP lounge. He's like,
I'll tell you,
I want to sit here and drink a beer with these dudes real quick. Can't we just wait 10 minutes? No, we have like 50 people you have to meet. He's like, all right, guys, dude.
so
And
I gotta.
I kind of
this
missed
is-
that. I kind of missed that. I missed
Yeah.
going to the old punk shows at the old 930 Club and just hanging out and having a beer with somebody. It was kind of cool.
You know what the new 930 Club is have you guys done or been to Jammin' Java?
Yeah.
So I have a great story there. Is anybody familiar with two people, Butch Walker and the other one is Brian Vander Ark? Brian Vander Ark was in the Verve Pipe. They did The Freshman, really great song. I love the song. And he has a great album called, I want to say it's like Sheffield 1, 2, 3, 4 or something like that. It's a fantastic solo album, lots of acoustic stuff on it. But I go to Jammin' Java to see him because I loved that song, The Freshman, like just loved it. And I go to see him and get the CD, and I'm like, ooh, I'm gonna go get it signed by Brian Vander Ark, blah, blah, blah. And I go to the back, you know, to the green door or whatever you call it, and knock on the door, and this dude, I'm like, is Mr. Vander Ark there? I'm like, Mr. The guy's probably my age, right? And this guy kind of scoffs at me, and I'm like, I'm a big guy, and I'm a pretty nice guy, but when I don't like being treated like I'm stupid. And this guy just gave me this I'm better than you vibe. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? And so he goes and gets Brian Vander Ark. Vander Ark comes out and he signs it. I'm like, dude, love your music. I liked you in Rockstar, you know, because he was in that movie Rockstar with Mark Wahlberg. You know, I was a fanboy. And so I'm still fuming. Like, after Brian Vander Ark's done playing, and it was a great show. He has this kid come up and sing with him, and kid was great, and it was just a great show. And I leave, come back, go. You know how the place is set up. You got the concerts right there, and then the bar is right behind you. And I go grab a beer, come back up. That motherfucker that was scoffing at me was the headliner, Butch Walker. I was like, and then he does a cover of I forget which Queen song it was, and he walks by him and he was like, and he just gave me this like, you get it now? Like, not I
He was
realized
insulted
that
that you didn't come to see him.
Well, no, but he wasn't even insulted. He was just like, do you get it now? Why I thought that was funny? Like he wasn't being a dick. He was just, you know, it was his show. I think he was actually smiling like, that's cool. They're coming to see this guy, which still they should have, because Vander Ark was huge at the time. But it was just a funny story. I was like, all right, you're okay. But then if you haven't listened to Butch Walker, he was a member of a band called The Marvelous Three. They did that Freak of the Week. Do you remember that song?
No.
Okay. Well, anyway, he's very good, actually. He in fact, he's immensely talented. He's got like this underground following. Again, coming back around, when all the houses burned down in, what was it, San Diego or Santa Barbara, about 10 years ago, when that huge fire where like Christopher Lloyd lost his home and everybody all these stars lost their homes. Pink, actually, he was producing her. He was like writing all her songs and all that stuff. So it all comes back around. But that's my little story about Jammin' Java. But Jammin' Java is a great place. I saw Tom Morello there too and talked to him. Nicest guy. Little too liberal. I mean, I lean liberal, but boy, he leans hardcore. But yeah, it was a good time. I love that place. That's my new 930. All right, dead space.
No,
We're letting it sit. We're letting it sit. That's okay.
Just let it settle. Take
Yeah.
that in. As boring as it
gonna
was.
ask, when Zeus, well, not Bruce, when Zeus was asking earlier about recording live, I was thinking, in front of an audience. Have you ever thought about doing that? Because there's some acts, like Peter Frampton was notoriously bad in the studio, but in front of an audience, then he just took off. And there's some acts like the Scorpions, they always record live for whatever reason. That's just what they prefer. But did you ever think of recording in front of an audience and what kind of reaction that would get? Would that give you a better sound? Or are you kind of like Led Zeppelin where they're just horrible trying to record live?
We need to get people to come out to our shows.
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, you need an audience first. Yeah.
When's your next show?
Well, the nice thing
We're
about
much
us
better in the studio now.
the nice thing about us recording live because of that is there's plenty of quiet. The noise floor is very low when I'm recording. We just did a nice we did an acoustic version of a song. We have a song called Xenia City that's about Xenia is a town in Ohio that's kind of in a tornado path. And at numerous times, of course, this town's history, they've been severely hit by tornadoes, and they've had to rebuild and things like that. So we have a song about Xenia City, and we did a submission for NPR for with that song, and we did it actually in this room live, acoustically. So we kind of did that. We've never though recorded sort of in the way you're sort of probably thinking. An MTV Unplugged or with an audience where we really have a whole show and we do a whole album. We've never done anything like that.
Sometimes it just gives you more energy and you get like a magic with that audience. But I guess you do need like a good sized audience.
I don't know. I mean, I wonder about that because I guess I'm thinking of a couple of things. Like sometimes live people get excited. One of my favorite shows we ever played was the Petworth Porch Fest, which we did last year. And most of our material was a little faster live. I think our drummer was very excited. And so it gave a lot of good energy, but
like the Ramones would just like speed, like when they're going live.
Yeah. But then some of what happens sometimes with that is that the nuances that you build into the music get crushed. And so you sometimes don't do better in front of an audience if you can't really harness the energy and make it serve what you're doing.
Right.
But I got to ask this. I would think that generally speaking, when you're getting that feedback, looking you in the face, smiling, singing along, screaming, just showing the love, that's got to be your best experiences. Am I wrong?
I would say this, but again, when you're an original band, they seldom sing along with you because
well, fair enough.
Yeah, but I will say that I'm as a front person, I'm a bit of a showman. I like to engage with the audience. I really like the energy audience brings you. So what you're describing, I agree with 100%. And one example is of that was last year at Porch Fest. We have a song that's named Two, and the end of the song, the way we sort of finish it, is we sort of are vamping on some music and you hear me count down 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. And that's the last thing on the song is 2.
Nice.
And that's just the way we sort of close it out. And when we were doing it live, we started doing that. And I said 6. And I looked at the audience and they're looking at me and I said 5. They're looking at me and I said, let me hear it. 3. And they chanted 3. And I said, let me hear it. And they all said 2. So I didn't even say it. And they finished the song.
Nice.
Yeah, and that was a really lovely moment. And I've been in other, a side band that I had a few years ago was kind of a comedy rock band. And it was just me and a drummer. And we had some real catchy tunes. And we were all about engaging with the audience. It was just the two of us. So it was almost a comedy routine. And for that, we could get people singing along because we basically teach them the songs and sort of force them to sing along. But with this band, we just play the songs.
You'll sing it or you'll like it.
Oh yeah. Actually, John's reminding me that motorcycle rally we mentioned earlier. Towards the end of that show, a nice little hippie woman came over, a nice hippie girl came over, and she wanted to sing with us.
Oh.
And again, we're not a cover band, so we didn't have any songs that she would know.
We weren't gonna play Me and Bobby McGee.
Yeah, we couldn't, you know.
Oh, come on.
So, but I liked the idea that she wanted to sing with us. So we have a song called Sugar and Whiskey. And it's a real simple song. And the chorus to it is just, I've got sugar, sugar for my baby, and whiskey for me, for me. That's it. And it's repetitive and really simple, really nice melody, and easy to sing. So I said, we're going to sing this song. I'm going to call you up at the end, and you're going to sing a song with us. And she's like, okay. And she was, I think, a little drunk. And she,
Or high.
So I brought her up, and I said, this is how the song goes. And real quick, while we were playing it, I sort of showed it to her real quick. And then we did it, and she sung with me on the song. So we were able to make it happen, even though she had never before that moment experienced that song. And so I would say that's my challenge for people out there who want to engage the audience. Instead of, you know, using somebody else's material, can you write some material that's going to be universal enough, simple enough, fun enough, and easy enough to rock, that some stranger can jump in that fast? That's sometimes that's part of the target. That's a joy.
To be,
We were on tour. We had
to be the people's
yeah.
music, yeah. You'd have, that would be one of the qualifications. You got to be able to relate to it, right?
Well, and you know, going back to the folk punk thing, oddly, that's kind of one of the things I like, is that they both are kind of the people's music. They're different ends of the spectrum, you know, like, but at the heart of it, they're songs that connect people depending on like where you're at. Like right now would be a great time for punk to come back in this current like political world arena that we're in right now. Great.
Punk
I think
never went
folk
away,
might be a
Zeus.
safer one. What?
Punk never went away. It's always been here.
Yeah, but it's just kind of, we've been keeping it alive with Green Day, and I don't know if that's the best thing. But I mean, but folk is probably what we need right now. I don't know. Punk is how we feel. Folk is how it should be. We need something to like just chill this whole freaking planet out a little bit. And to that note, I want to ask, have you guys written any songs recently kind of about this crazy, tumultuous COVID-19, Ukraine war, Marxist undertones, blah, 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 like all this just tribalism and disconnected kind of feel, or are you guys trying to be cheerful?
No, there's a variety of stuff that sort of filters through me. So the song that John just leaned over to me and reminded me, one of the songs that we're actually going to be debuting live pretty soon is a song called We Throw Bricks in America.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, and We Throw Bricks in America is a song that I wrote on Election Day. That was how I dealt with Election Day this past year. And while I have my political feelings about things, there's a spectrum of perspectives and feelings and observations in this band. It's not a homogenous political environment, this group. And I value that. As a human being, I value that. We're living proof that we can have variety and diversity in our perspectives. And also as a songwriter, as an artist, I value that, because it means that I have a lot more churning into the crucible of my songwriting process than just an echo chamber, strictly an echo chamber, right? So I really like the variety, the diversity within this band. We Throw Bricks in America is one of those songs. There's another song that we have called Dead Language that's about feeling like you're not being heard, no matter what you do. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, is something that is probably a fairly universal American feeling when we start talking about politics. I bet a lot of people feel that that's what's happening. So I think that is a fair one. And something that the band hasn't done yet, but I wrote a song a little while back because I'm actually a friend of mine, his wife is Ukrainian, and she's a very passionate, knowledgeable Ukrainian. And another friend of mine is Ukrainian. So for the past 2 years or so, I've been sort of keeping, one eye on the Russian bullshit outside on the border of Ukraine. And so I wrote a song called Chamomile, because chamomile is actually a national flower of Russia, and sunflower is the national flower of Ukraine. And so the song is about an occupation and about how one flower steals another flower's resources and light. So I'm drifting a little bit from the metaphor that Rush uses in the trees, if you're familiar with that one. But I think it's apt. And I didn't do much with the song because I was waiting. I wasn't trying to stir a pot. But now I'm thinking we should do it. So we'll see. That might be something that I throw at the band before too long. But I also don't want my personal political feelings or my observations about things to too boldly color this group. This is a diverse group, and I don't want to dictate us too hard.
I mean, I feel where you're coming from, but our group, and just so you're aware, this is not dissing Mike E.P. Mike crushes it. Love him being on the show, but he's not a regular on the show. He's our replacement Mike. We actually have another guy named Mike that comes on. We get a lot of Mikes on this show, by the way, and we're getting a lot of Toms too. But it was funny because something that we talk about a lot on the show, when you said dead language, we talk a lot about it from a different aspect. And this is kind of, I was hoping you were going this place, but we talk a lot about how words are being just changed, just new words that, like, I feel like my parents did when I was a kid. Like maybe things aren't really as tumultuous as they are. We're just becoming our parents and everything's bothering us now. Get off my lawn. These lights never go out. Blah, blah, blah. Just this, we're angry and curmudgeons now. But
I think I found something at you that might be interesting along those lines. So you've heard of Jack Kerouac and Ken Kesey, and you've heard about the Beat Generation.
Yeah.
The Beat Generation were basically
Like
the
right
kids
before the hippies.
They did, yeah. But the thing that's key about them is that they were too young to fight in World War II. When 1945 hit, they were too young to be in the military. So they never were part of the greatest generation. Then the greatest generation comes back from World War II and they sire the boomers. And in between the boomers and the greatest generation was this other generation that, because the greatest generation basically passed all of what they had on to the boomers, this generation in between felt beat down. That's what they said. They felt beat. Now, the Gen Xers are the beat generation. The Gen Xers are the beat generation of recent time. The boomers had all the money and all the reach. And we didn't have technology yet. Not the way the millennials do and the Gen Zers do. So the Gen X voice got beat down. That's why all our musical icons were pissed. Now, the thing that's significant about this is that we got these two beat generations, and both of them were followed by the 60s in the first case, which is this tumultuous civil rights era, and we're living another one right now. Yeah, it's the same cycle. So that might help a bit of perspective.
But I will say, I think Gen Xers, I think everybody here is Gen Xer. Maybe not you, Mike. How old are you, Mike?
I'm 38.
He said that so meekly.
I'm sorry. I think I'm an elder millennial.
There's like a great meme where it says, hey millennials, if you're worried about World War III, go find a Gen X friend and they'll tell you what it's like to go through those worries and you'll be just fine. Like kind of what you were getting at. We're resilient, and like there's something about being in that period where we get to see this oncoming technology and take it in, and like I don't want to say anger of the music. I mean, yeah, you got your Nirvana and Kurt Cobain killing himself, but then you got like a Foo Fighters, and you got like some of these really, really great bands. Michael! Sorry. That's another Mike. See, Mike's all over the place. We're riddled with Mikes. But the Gen X, I think it's kind of like, I agree with what you're saying. It's kind of like the beatniks, like Gen X, man, some of the powerful speakers in that period are still running strong today. Like we're still, we still like them. Like they didn't change. They didn't become part of the current zeitgeist. They just do their thing. And I do love that about our period, but it is sometimes a little tumultuous for me right now. This is the most tumultuous time I've been in my life. Like, and that should have been my 20s, right there in the Gen X period. But now it's just like I don't even turn on the TV anymore. Don't watch the news.
So then I'm wondering, to speak to sort of that cycle, do you think that a time of hardship and like because you talk about World War II and that cycle, we were coming out of, you know, the Great Depression and World War I, and then I'm wondering, do you think that, you know, do you think that we're sort of on the verge of you know, a hardship time to sort of build out again, start the cycle sort of over, where, you know, we're going to have a whole new generation of people who sort of suffer a hardship, and then you know, a great war or a great change in culture or a great change in the world sort of happens, where it sort of starts the cycle again? Do you think we're sort of on the precipice of some sort of hardship, or do you think what do you think is next then, if you're following that cycle?
Well, go ahead.
No.
I
I'd say
think that
going
was for you,
from
Nick.
the Spanish flu into the Roaring '20s, like the last century, it could be like that.
Yeah,
People take the mask off, they start the party, and that could be the '20s.
It could be. I'm no great sociologist, you know. These are just some observations that I've had. Very humbly, I believe in them, but I don't think that I know more than people who really study this stuff. I guess my thought on what you just said is I always think about, I think it's impossible to think about, if you think about the 50s and the 60s, then you look at the 70s and you think about women's liberation, you think about a lot of realistic advancements in civil rights that we started to have with representation in television and workplace shifting environments. We get sort of another wave, a second wave of feminism. We get things that are actually legitimately breathing real practical life into the promise of the Constitution. Okay, that's what started to happen in the 70s. That happened because people fought in the 60s, but it also happened because there was a manufacturing base that allowed people who had historically not been allowed to have money having money. So one of the dangers we have is that we will not have the momentum of forward progress if we have all the money concentrated into fewer hands, if we don't have unions being strong, if we don't have the minority populations in our nation being recognized and having the opportunity to have their voices heard and being financially stable. If that doesn't happen, we're looking at a lot more tension. If we can get more dissemination of finances, we can get things to be more equitable in that regard, then what we're looking at is progress. What we're looking at is things are going to be the Roaring '20s. Things are going to be better. We're going to win the next Cold War. That's how we win it. If we get greedy, we're not going to win it. It's going to get all fucked. And part of what I think, one of the things that I know is an obstacle for some is the evolving understandings of who we are as people, cisgender replacing man or woman. The evolving understanding of these things is a necessary and beautiful blossoming of our understanding. It's difficult. Old dogs, new tricks. It's difficult, but it is progress. That's a good sign. That's like Good Times on television. That's like Mary Tyler Moore show. That's like good shit happening where more voices and more understandings are coming into where they should have always been in the first fucking place. And that's what we need. That's a good thing. But if we also don't have these same voices and these same representations have enough money to choose to do whatever the fuck they want to do, if we don't have the general welfare being guarded, then it's going to be ugly and people are going to only be tribal.
I'm glad you said that word. That was your last, that was the two for this, you know, from your song for this podcast, because that's what I'm getting at. What I'd like to think, well, so we have a young lady that's come on this show. She's the fiance of one of our other hosts, and she had a really beautiful and kind of eloquent way of looking at what we're going through, because we're clearly going through something right now. I think that can be agreed. It's chaos. It's like we're being told one thing from up here, but we're not feeling it down here, you know? But she said, and I just thought it was really it made me feel a little better about the world. She said, this is like childbirth. It's like, it's painful and it's going to hurt and it's uncomfortable as you build up to it. But then when at the end of it, you've got this beautiful new life, and hopefully that's society, you know, it's kind of what she was getting at, is that this just might be labor pains. We might be moving on to something new. However, and I'm going to stick to this one. I don't like language changing. Changing the language is bad news. Everything you say is like, everybody wants to be put into this small little group, but they don't want to be put into the small little group. It's like, it's very confusing for me. I don't know about you guys, but it gets a little, I don't know what to say and when to say it.
I mean, I you know, dealing with people, I mean, I deal with the public, you know, where I work, and I deal with all kind of craziness. I've had stuff thrown at me.
In fairness,
and-
I've thrown things at you.
I was gonna say, he probably deserved it.
Yeah. So I threw a gallon.
You got a
of
very
milk.
throwable face.
Go ahead.
Somebody didn't have the money to pay for it, and she pegged me with it.
If somebody could
And I just
explain
happened
what,
to be the one who asked for it. But
if some,
dealing with the public, man, and dealing with people, I would hope that my music reaches out and touches everybody somehow.
Yeah.
I hope they can go, hey, I like the way he's playing that bass. That's pretty cool. And it's really, maybe it gives them a moment of peace with the tumultuous crap that's going on in the world and in some folks' minds. But dealing with people, man, it's everybody. I guess I'm at the point where I'm old and everybody's pretty much the same. I mean, I try and treat everybody the same. I know I don't. I know it's, you know, 50 years of you know, just personal experiences and stuff like that. Everything kind of in the way, you know, things were when I was a kid. I'm sure that I treat everybody a little bit different, but my main goal is just not to be a dick. You know, sometimes it's so fucking hard. You know,
it's like you want to write a song, write something about spreading that kindness, because I don't think that's going out there right now, man. I don't think, you know, everybody says, like, even Will Smith with this whole slapping Chris Rock thing, he's like, I want to be a vessel for love. Dude, you just slapped a fucking man in the face for equating your wife with a powerful female figure from recent past. What the fuck? You're not a vessel for love. You're a bad
it would have
dick.
been a lot funnier if she got up and bitch slapped his ass.
Yeah.
It'd have been a
that
lot
would've been way
funnier if Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson had been hosting the Academy Awards, because he
I mean,
wouldn't have gotten up and slapped him.
And to
But I
an
mean-
extent, sometimes it's like with modern society, like this is one thing, like comedy and situation comedy, TV shows and stuff like that. Sometimes I feel that they just show people being dicks to other people, and it's funny, and everybody laughs at it. And maybe we shouldn't be dicks, you know?
Yeah.
That's just an observation.
Stop being dicks. That I like that. We're going with that.
That's a fucking t-shirt right there. Don't
Stop
be a
being-
dick.
I want to.
That's
What's the name?
start simple. Go to you.
What's the name of the Sunflower song again? I want to look that. Is that available somewhere?
That is not available yet.
Oh,
It's a
fine.
song that I wrote. We haven't recorded it yet. It isn't even something I showed
That would
the
be
band.
awesome because the sunflower has become a real big symbol for the Ukraine.
Yeah, that what that old lady said about, you know, to the
Yeah.
soldiers, like, put sunflower
Put it in
seeds
your pockets.
die, your corpse will be doing something fucking good for
And
the
there's some
country.
memes with like Putin and the sunflowers. So, yeah, try to get that one out there pretty quick. I want to hear that. And
Okay.
before you guys go, can we see this little dog that's been the star of the show? Can you bring the dog in?
Yeah, that's
I love
that's
that.
Tom has got
Yeah,
the
I mean, we've been
these two
listening
dogs.
to He seems to like you guys' voice because when you guys start, when we talk, he doesn't. Yeah.
So it's safe to say you guys wouldn't be able to play
There he
something
is.
for us to play us out, right?
What's up,
Oh.
dog?
It's a little
Little
bit-
piglets,
They're not trained.
puglets.
Oh,
John, Nick, did you hear me?
is that
No,
pug?
Is there, you guys wouldn't be able to play anything out, would you?
I don't think so.
No, probably
Yeah.
not
There's
tonight.
some acapella.
All right. So-
well, I could play Barnacles.
Barnacles.
Barnacles. I bet you anything, I could probably grab an acoustic. Yeah, he's gonna grab a guitar.
Do it. Let's be organic.
Yeah.
So this is a song called Barnacles. So tell me, how many songs have you heard? Have you heard called Barnacles?
Are you on like
wait, I got one.
SpongeBob
I got one,
SquarePants?
SpongeBob SquarePants.
I said it first.
You don't have kids.
So Barnacles is a song that I wrote a few years ago. I was doing a gig that was that was an arts related gig, but it wasn't. It was an arts related gig, but it wasn't particularly rewarding artistically. So I started doing a thing where I wrote a song a day for 30 days. I wrote 30 songs in 30 days. And this was one of the songs that came out. It's probably the best song that came out. Barnacle. Yeah.
I may join in.
Beth may
You
join
should
us.
join in.
All right.
I may.
And the dogs might join in. Have you ever seen the ocean? Felt yourself curl into you, but not subdued? Emerald coves are not all things. There's a bluer sea beyond the reef. Inspires me. I've been waiting, and my labor's fruitful. Some say that I wait too long, but they're wrong. My patience is a true virtue that will lead me on. Hi there. Keep your skiff inside the harbor. It's not made to take the bigger waves. Not yet today. And use the right boat for the right cove. It's no sin to plan for the journey ahead. Seal the thread. I've been waiting, and my labor's fruitful. Some say that I wait too long, but they're wrong. My patience is a true virtue that will lead me on. It's nice to have the youth in the house. There are no barnacles here. Scrape them off your mirror and right down to the sea. There are no barnacles here. Scrape them off your mirror and right down to the sea. Now that you have built the sextons, don't keep the world waiting long. Because there's a time to hug that coastline. There's a time to cast off and be gone. 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 that's going to be it. We're going to be gone now.
That was amazing.
Thank you. You like me. You really like me. You like the Dusty Stars.
Very good.
Dusty Stars.
Nice,
What
Mike.
kind of guitar you got there?
This is an Epiphone. This is something Tom handed me. This is Tom's guitar. Tom doesn't play much acoustic guitar, so it's a crapshoot when he hands you an acoustic guitar. You never know what you're gonna get.
He
Last,
normally plays Taylor's, Zeus.
I was
like
just
to
gonna
play.
say, last little story out of this. John will tell you, I got this Taylor. I can't play a lick on it.
Oh.
If
nice
anybody
guitar.
wants to teach me, I love singing. I wouldn't mind writing. I got this Taylor. When you play it, it fills the room. Like, I suck on it, and I can maybe do "Come As You Are" like the first 4 seconds of it. "Come As You Are" by Nirvana, but it sounds so fucking good.
I'm a
and
fan. Yeah.
and it's like it's been sitting in my closet for like 15 years, and it still sounds amazing. And it's got this case. It's got like Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, Division Bell. The guy that owned it was this guy named Robert Rosa, and this is back at the beginning of the internet, like Netflix beginning of the internet. And I find this guy, and I'm like, hey, I feel bad because this thing is so cool. And I'm like, do you want it back? I bought it. I got it for $200. Do you want it back? And he's like, nah, like that's like paying it forward. Like that needed to be with you. But yeah, it's just funny because I got this amazing guitar and I can't play a lick of music on it. But dude, that was spectacular.
You want to, Nick? Do you want to plug any coming up appearances or anything?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, for the Washington D.C. area, there's a really great music festival that's coming up in Petworth neighborhood called the Petworth Porch Fest. It is on April 30th, and I think it's like 2 p.m. to 6 or something like that. It's a day sort of festival, and it is a porch fest. We do a couple of these in D.C., and it is when the folks who live there volunteer their porch to be a venue for some local music. So the Dusty Stars are going to be playing the Petworth Porch Fest. We don't know our address yet. We don't know our time slot yet. But there's going to be a bunch of great local music that's going to be playing out there. We played there last year. We had a great time. We played our Bigfoot song.
Oh, I want a Bigfoot song.
Yeah, we should
Maybe.
play that. Next time you have us on Zeus and Friends, we'll play our Bigfoot song for you. We'll see if we can get that for you. But we played our Bigfoot song for the crowd, and we're just practicing tonight on what we think is going to be our set. That's our next public performance. And other than that, please, please, please go on to bandcamp.com and find the Dusty Stars and follow us and buy our music there because we get good money there. And we're going to be releasing singles. We release these holiday singles. So if you got some Irish in you, you can hear the Emerald Isle Shakedown, our St. Patrick's Day single, and we've got them starting in Halloween. We got a song for every holiday that's happened so far.
Cold turkey.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Dude, it was great. It was so great. I hope you guys want to come on again. I had a blast. At this point, Jack would say, I think we've been on for a while. I think it's about time we wrap this up.